Hi guys, Chris here. So, it's been a while since we've had a Kickback with Chris extra episode. Yesterday I had the opportunity to speak with Logan Ramirez from the Taekwondaddy. Got to say it carefully that, otherwise you say Taekwondo-daddy. So it's Taekwondaddy. There we go, got it right. The Taekwondaddy podcast, and as the description reads on his website, it lists itself as a podcast for martial arts students and parents by a martial arts student and parent. So we sat down yesterday, we had a good chat about my training history, my online training courses, podcast, and then he made I won't say a mistake. It depends how you view these things, but he asked me about my love for the intricacies of kicking and the finer details, and how I like to sort of really delve into understanding the whys and hows and all this sort of stuff. But yeah, he's very kindly sent me the audio file over, so you can have a listen for yourselves. And what I would say as well is, if you're interested in checking out more of his podcasts, if you go along to taekwondaddy.com, everything's there. You can read up about Logan himself and what the podcast's about and the things that he does, and listen to some of his previous episodes as well. So without any further ado, we'll jump straight into the episode. Thanks a lot, guys. Oh, and don't forget, the next main episode for us is going to be our Jean-Claude Van Damme special, and I've got some absolutely cracking people have jumped on board with this. We've got people who are fans, people who are friends of his, people who have worked with him. So it's a really, really good one, and I look forward to sharing with you all in the next week or so.
Brought to you by www.mittmaster.com.
Welcome to the Taekwondaddy Podcast, a resource for martial arts students and parents by martial arts student and parent Logan Ramirez. Taekwondaddy, train hard, parent harder.
There are so many things I loved about this particular episode, visiting with Chris Jones, the most obvious of which is visiting with someone from the other side of the world, where we had to coordinate schedules, and aside from having a really cool accent, Chris has just got a real candid temperament, and everything he talked about is, you can tell it's very methodical, very intentional, very well thought out. The way he's approached his whole life and becoming excellent at kicking carries over into how he's being an excellent father. But my favorite thing overall was how affirming it was to visit with someone who's of similar age, and what he's experienced and what he's doing with martial arts is what I've been learning in the last 4 years that I've been training, just from simple things like stances matter, right? Everything's built up from stances, and him loving the side kick, a fundamental kick and a simple kick, and admitting that every body style is different. So you take these key principles, but you have to adapt them to every body style, and how you have to cast off whatever's going in your life and get on the mat, because you don't know what the students are going through in their own life, and you might be the only positive thing in their week. My own instructor often talks about it in a different way. He says we have about an hour to change a life. We never know if we're going to get that student again. And then in parenting, just putting the first things first. So if you're at home, be at home. If you're at the dojo, be at the dojo. I mean, all these things were just resonated with me, because they reinforce what I'm experiencing in my own life, and in my own learning. And I was just really, really grateful to have the opportunity to visit with Chris. And I hope that you guys who listen to this go out there and support him, find his social media, sign up for his online classes, do something to encourage Chris, because he's out there in the real world making a difference day in and day out. Anyway, hope you enjoy it. Hello, Mr. Chris Jones. How are you, sir?
I'm very good. Yourself?
I'm well, thank you. It's
good.
It's really awesome. It's really awesome to connect with you. I first of all, super cool to talk to someone who it's morning for me. It's the afternoon for you. Are you in the UK, London? Where are you?
I'm in the UK. I'm actually in the north of England, a place called North Yorkshire, which is it's a tiny. Obviously, the UK it's a tiny place, really. But the difference in the accents and dialects in such a short place is just huge.
Really?
Oh yeah. If you, there's. I know that for a lot of people around the world, whenever they think of the UK and England, they always think of London. But I'm about 4 hours drive away from London. So
okay.
Yeah. It's. Not close by.
Well, I'm married to a Minnesota woman who has a little bit of a Midwestern American accent, which just means they say things like crick instead of creek.
Yeah.
But it's more than 4 hours. I mean, it's 20 hours to get to like an entirely different dialect.
Yeah. Like I say, over here, it's a tiny place, but I'm not even going to attempt to do different accents. But if you were to compare, say, a Yorkshire accent to a Liverpudlian or Liverpool accent or a Newcastle accent, it's huge. Yeah. The difference is huge. So, North Yorkshire. I've not lived here for long, but I've always lived around the area. So,
all right, I'm gonna Google when we're done. I'm gonna find a YouTube video on someone who does Yorkshire versus Liverpool.
Yeah.
Find one.
Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty out there.
I'll post it.
As I say, I'm not going to try and do them because there'll be somebody listening that'll know the difference and they'll crucify me for it. So.
Yeah, well, we'll get into some of the things you do here in a second, but I couldn't help but want to talk quickly and take advantage of the fact that there's this UK and US thing, and I have no UK experience. Never been. My exposure to British is really Monty Python growing up, and so I thought maybe it'd be fun if I Googled the biggest differences between the UK and the US. Would you mind if I ask you if these are true, and you can kind of give me some insight?
Well, I can try. I can give you my opinion.
No, I'd like that. I'm an education guy. So one of the things I read was that if you don't ask your British colleagues if they'd like a cup of tea or coffee when you go to make yours, then you get the stink eye.
You can be, yes. You can. I mean, I suppose it comes down to whether you're bothered.
I don't know. I tell you, my perspective, like I go get coffee, every day at my office, and nobody cares. Like nobody said, "Oh, dude, you could ask me for something." Like it's not common.
Yeah.
But is there a hospitality?
I think I think it's maybe just sort of an unwritten rule. I mean, it's. If you were, I think it's the same everywhere. If you were at home and you were going to make something, you would maybe ask the other people in the room, "Hey, would you like a drink?" But if you're in an office and if there's like 25 other people, then they can get their own coffee.
Well, in that particular one, contrasted against another one I read, which is British people do not make small talk with strangers. They would never strike up a conversation with someone on public transportation.
Unfortunately, the world it is becoming a little bit more like that. I'm not one of those people. I can talk to anybody.
Sure.
But it is. You can. For example, you were saying London. You can go on the underground in London and you can sit in complete silence with 50 other people, and everybody's sort of heads down, mobile device.
Well, that's certainly more prevalent here as well with these iPhones, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I read 5-week paid vacations and amazing maternity leave.
Well, I'm self-employed, so
okay, all right.
I never see a day off. No,
right,
I have two.
enough,
I have two. No, I have 2 weeks at Christmas. So
okay,
but no, it's all I've ever known, really, working wise, since I was. Yeah. I came into sort of martial arts teaching as a 19-year-old, and it's all I've done, and I'm about to turn 40, so
Wow, yeah, yes, sir. A couple more. So British people don't say they have errands to run; they say they have things or bits to do.
Yeah, that's true. I've got things to do. Yeah, I've got things to do.
I'm gonna use that one. I like that more. And then British people actually hate tea. True, false?
Hate tea?
Yeah, I thought everybody loved tea.
Everybody loves. Well, no, I mean,
okay. Well, I just Googled it.
I'm a coffee drinker myself. I can drink tea, but if I have a choice, I always have coffee first.
All right.
But I have nothing against tea or tea drinkers for people out there that like their tea. But the thing with the coffee is it's so much easier to make. And with tea, you've got some people like the tea bag in, some people like you take it out. Some people like the milking first and the milking. There's too much to think about. Mm-hmm. You just make the coffee, drink the coffee. It's easy.
Yeah, I agree. I do coffee and I just drink it black.
Yeah, simple. That's
right. Yeah. The British follow the rules. No speeding means no speeding.
No. Absolutely no.
Okay. All
Well,
right.
not that I have. I've been driving since 1997, and I have one speeding ticket. So,
all right. Yeah.
and that was for a closed, what we call motorway, which is like a freeway. It was closed. It was 2 a.m. There was a speed camera set up. That was the only reason I got caught. So, other than that, one speeding ticket since 1997. So,
man, congrats to that.
I need to drive faster.
All right, last one. Baked beans and cheese on toast is a normal thing to eat.
Oh, only if you're weird. There's nothing normal about that whatsoever. I mean,
okay, all right. Well, we've solved them. All.
I mean, people do, but okay, it was a joke.
They're all weird. They're all weird. Yeah,
it is weird though. I mean, it
is weird. I don't disagree with that at all.
Maybe we should all go and try it. We might be missing something that we don't know. I mean, we should try it.
I'll tell you what. I'll post that. I'll post a baked beans on toast video as well.
Yeah.
When we release this. All right. So circle back here. You mentioned you started teaching martial arts when you were 19.
I was 19. Yeah. I mean, I've been training in martial arts as long as I can remember. Mid to late 80s, and I just sort of fell into it accidentally. The teaching, it wasn't on my radar. I had aspirations of being the next big film star as a child. That was my goal.
Right.
And I always emulated and looked up to my instructors. But teaching, other than helping out occasionally, it was never really something that I was planning to do. I sort of fell into it accidentally. Actually, it did involve an accident. I had injured my instructor. So,
what?
Yeah.
What happened? Yeah, how'd that go?
Okay, so I mean, anybody that does sort of Japanese or Korean systems will know there's like a blocking conditioning drill that a lot of people tend to do. So you sort of do inside forearm outside, and you clash arms to condition the arms for the blocking. Sure. Okay, we were demonstrating that drill, and my instructor was talking. Now, his version's probably different to my version, but in my version, he stepped forwards towards me whilst he was talking, and I sort of did like an inside hammer fist to the inside of his nose, and his nose sort of span round at a right angle. So that was in the middle of the class in front of everybody. So he ran off, and I'm stood there like, okay, well, what do I do?
He took over.
The head instructor who actually owned the studio jokingly said that I would take over and teach, and that ended up being a week. So I went in for an entire week helping out and doing what I could, and then at the end of the week he said, I really should offer you a job, shouldn't I? So and that's how it kind of happened.
That's
so
awesome.
that was the long time ago.
What system was it? You mentioned
it was ITF based Taekwondo.
Okay.
And that was under Master Kim Stones, who was around the time he was the world champion in the ITF Taekwondo. So something that I looked up to a massive amount, and I'm very thankful that through an accident I injured one of his employees. I got a job.
Yeah, and you said you're still doing it today, so this is your primary source of income. Running school. We'll get into your online curriculum later, but this is what you do for a living. Yeah,
this is. I mean, it's all I know. I dropped out of college. Dropped out of college. Because I felt so awful that I'd injured the person one of the people I looked up to the most. That I was actually working part time at the time as well. So I didn't turn into work. I dropped out of college. All of this without my parents knowing, by the way. I just I kind of fell into it accidentally. I kind of found that I had a natural talent for it, and that was back in the days where that sort of thing you could do.
Sure. And let's circle back here, because you mentioned you wanted to be a film star, and you have gotten into film. I mean, how did that transition happen?
Wow. Well, I mean, that would have been sort of the late 90s, around about 2000. Sort of the advent of the internet, or the internet when it was more readily available. Everywhere and anywhere that you could post videos and photos, I would put something on. So I'd do some kicks on pads or, just anything that I could do. And then I would post it everywhere and just emailed people. This is back VHS. So I would post VHS tapes around the world to different people. Yeah. I'd find addresses. Wow. It was just a constant sort of year-long process of pushing myself out there and not getting any replies, but just continuing. And then eventually I got the break and somebody said, "Oh, I'm filming this short segment for a TV show. Will you work for free?" Of course I will. And and then the rest is history. And that was, 19 years ago. Yeah, about 19 years ago. So,
Wow, that's something. Yeah, I've actually was looking at you have an IMDb page and I found you, and there's like 20 credits. Have you done? Yeah,
I mean, yeah. So what happened was sort of between the year 2000 and 2009, I was really pushing, sort of building my career. So I went from working on sort of local independent things through to getting my break in Hong Kong and China and further around Europe. And then in 2009, my son was born, and my whole sort of outlook changed completely. So I went from being interested in, flying off to Hong Kong for 10 days to not wanting to go anywhere. I just wasn't interested. My focus just came back around full circle, and I put all my intention into my school. I actually had an injury at the time as well, which contributed. But the primary source of sort of stopping was my son being born. So it's only been recently that I've started pursuing the career again properly. Hence, there's quite, if you look on the IMDb listing, there's sort of credits up until around 2009, and then it goes really, there's like big gaps where I stopped working for a while. So, but I'm getting there, I'm back out there and working again.
The credits between 2009 and they're all kind of choreographer credits between 2009 versus, I suppose, the stunts. Yeah,
that's right. I mean, I went sort of, the working behind the scenes was always something that I enjoyed. And I found it was a little bit more accessible with my focus being on my teaching. It's not that I wasn't still training, but I wasn't as physically active in sort of like the performance circles anymore. So the choreography roles were obviously, they're a lot less physically intense, and it was another string to the bow. It was just something new to do, another challenge that still tied in, that kept me sort of connected to the industry. So I'm still doing that now as well. So it's, I like a challenge.
Yeah. And did you always, Taekwondo, did you always excel at kicking? Like you started out 19. Okay. No. How did that transition? Because kicking's your thing now. So I've openly described myself this way on various posts. I wasn't very athletic as a child. I was the kid that was usually the last to be picked in all the physical activities. I didn't excel at what we call football or soccer, as many of your listeners will probably know it. It's a huge sport over here. It's like our national sport, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it, which really didn't lend to me being that popular when it came to sort of sport and physical activities. So I found I didn't really enjoy sports at all. And then I saw The Karate Kid in the 80s, and I was like, I want to do that. But there wasn't anywhere local. There wasn't anywhere to do it. And then eventually I spotted a school, incidentally, straight across from where I was living. And I saw them going in their white crossover gis and their belts. And I'm thinking, that's the thing. That's what those guys were doing on the TV. I want to go do that. And my instructor at the time, a guy called Dean Colborne, he excelled at kicking. This was the time where, the demonstration teams were really starting to become prevalent, and, the backflip kicking boards, and, they were trying all those things. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. That captivated my attention as a sort of an 8-year-old. But again, I wasn't very good. But I decided it was what I wanted to do. So I just worked at it like crazy. And, decided that's what I wanted to do, and just persevered, which obviously is one of the key elements of martial arts training, isn't it? So, You're practicing, right? So, what was one of the things you identified about yourself that, hey, with kicking, this is something? Give me something technical that, like, I needed to fix this thing.
For me, I wasn't the most coordinated, and I'm still not. But I like to isolate mechanics, biomechanics, why things are and why things work the way they work. And, you know, I've got that eye for detail, I think, myself. And it's one of the things that really helped me to sort of fine tune and work out where I was going wrong. For example, I had a VHS-C camcorder, and it was bought for me one Christmas in the 90s sometime. And I would record myself kicking and then use, well, I nearly made a joke that I don't know whether it's appropriate or not for your audience, so I won't say it. But whilst other teenagers using videos and pause plus options for other things, I was pause, play on me kicking, on videos of myself kicking.
Sure.
You know, my friends are like, "What are you doing? Why are you doing this?" It's a bit straight. Anyway, so but I was wanting to figure out, you know, why am I falling forwards? Why am I losing my balance? You know, when I'm seeing, say, Jean-Claude Van Damme, or when I'm seeing whoever it is doing a kick, why are they not falling? Why are they not losing balance? And it sort of came from there. And then I would start seeing other people making the same mistakes, or not making the mistake, but then knowing why. And then I just started to apply that process to everything, a little bit at a time. And you know, that's where I am today. So I'm a little bit strange in that respect, maybe, but it's helped. It's really helped.
Yeah, it's a great story, especially for so many who are uncoordinated, and they know that. It's so encouraging, because I often think, no, you have to have certain fundamentals like coordination to excel at this, and you're really saying, no, you don't. You have to have a desire for the technical and a passion for work and hard work.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just biomechanics. It's just body mechanics.
Yeah. I mean, as human beings, we're gifted with the ability to adapt. Now, of course, there are some people, unfortunately, in certain situations where absolutely they can improve, but there will be a natural limit. That's just the reality of things. But it doesn't mean that they can't still enjoy that process of fine tuning and trying to understand and develop on where they are. And from my own, you know, personal experience, there's nothing more satisfying than when somebody tells you, for whatever reason, whether it's medically or just their opinion, you can't do something, and then you do it. I thrive off that. If somebody tells me I can't do something, then I have to do it, because especially, you know, the typical sort of dream stealer type people, you know, if they don't feel they can do it, then nobody else should be able to do it either. And you know, I thrive off that challenge of being told I can't do something. So
yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, sounds like you're very competitive.
Absolutely. In certain ways, in certain things. Right. In other ways, I'm very passive. Not really interested in if people think or feel a certain way. It's very hard to articulate, really. But I suppose I'm unique in that way.
Sure, a lot of that's probably learned. I'd call that maybe wisdom. So tell me your favorite kick of all the kicks that are out there. Which one do you love doing? My go-to kick is the box standard lead leg side kick. Lead leg side kick. Yeah, lead leg side kick, because you can. It's so multifaceted. It's so you can use it in so many different situations. It is my go-to kick, absolutely. Midsection lead leg side kick. It's one of those kicks that and it's so basic, but it's obviously there's a huge element of time. A huge element of technique to it, but it's the timing thing for me that's the real important, and the way that you can manipulate the chamber and add the tiniest of freeze, like a pause at different points, and it has a huge impact on how the other person is able to read it and change to. And yeah, I love that sort of physical game of chess, that distance between the two people in sparring. And for me, lead leg side kick is
I almost use that to gauge my distance. I'll use that lead leg side kick to gauge distance, and I'll also use it to crush your ribs. And it's like the same way maybe a boxer will with their lead hand for a jab. Check the distance, and then they'll hit you with it as well. That's my side kick. That's my go-to.
I love, and your videos. You're a high flying kicker. You throw these beautiful. You got great flexibility. I love that your favorite kick is a side kick. So I just so you know, on a personal level, I just love hearing that, because I think it would be easy to ask that question and then for you to say something really fancy, like a spin jump butterfly kick or something, and because they're beautiful and they're high flying, and you're just like simple and basic, and maybe that's one of the reasons you also like black coffee.
Get that on a t-shirt. I like sidekicks and black coffee.
If I print those, I'll send you one. So real quick, what are some of, if you were just from your years of experience, the most common fundamental mistakes that people should fix for, like, think about kicking at a high level, all kicks, and if we were to build a pyramid and sort of stack them up, what's at the base? What do people need to fix first for them to get those more technical nuances right?
The start point, the stance, how they're standing, how their feet are positioned, the weight distribution is huge. I find that a lot of people that struggle with kicks, their stance is too shallow, it's too short. So they're not able to move their weight around. They're not able to play with their balance before they've even initiated a chamber or a rotation. So having a good understanding of how you need your feet positioned and your knees bent before anything. I know that most schools, most instructors will teach basic sort of stance drills, and a lot of times students, especially with kids, and it's understandable because it's not that exciting, but really, especially any adults out there that may be listening that are training, really do pay attention to feeling your body through your feet when you're moving around. And I don't just mean knowing that your feet are touching the floor, but really listen to it and feel it, because that grip, that little maybe grip that you do with your toes, that's instinctive that you don't know you're doing. If you know you're doing it, then you can manipulate it and you can do different things with it. And it's all those little nuances. So it all starts from the ground. Feet position, make sure your stance is wide enough for you. Your knees are bent, and feel how that manipulates the kicks and what happens when you try different kicks from different positions, and then go up from there.
What's the next one? We got stances, foot position, ankle position, balance. Keep building the pyramid.
So if we build it up in stages, so I could do it really in depth, but I would probably send half your listeners to sleep. So we'll do it in stage. So stance position, obviously, foot positioning. Obviously, there's different people take different approaches with this one, and I'm not going to get too much into not political, but sort of style differences. But as I say, feet positioning, is it in an L position? Is it side on? It depends what kick you're trying to achieve. And then moving up from there, we start looking at, obviously, chamber. So when we're lifting, are we chambering properly? A lot of times people will, let's say they're doing a side kick, they'll chamber too shallow. So what happens is they're actually lifting their kicking foot up rather than tucking it in tight and then firing it forwards. Right. Yes. I like to explain this one to the kids. I would think that letterboxes indoors aren't universal across the world, because you guys tend to have them in the little boxes, don't you, in your yard? Anyway, I'll explain. Yeah, like a mailbox. But over here, we have them in the door, so they come through straight through the door. So anyway, you might, this is the way I explain it to the kids, with the caveat of don't actually do it. Just imagine you're doing it. So they've got the letterbox in the door, and it's just about the size of your foot. You've got to lift up your foot into a chamber, and your foot's got to go straight through the hole, and then come straight back out again. And it can't. Wow. So if you lift your foot up, if you're lifting as you're extending, then you're going to have upwards movement that's wasted that should be going forwards.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yep. So if you imagine if you've got a wall in front of you and there's a hole that's the shape of your foot, if you lift your foot as you're chambering, as you're kicking, you're going to have upwards movement that's going to mean that you're not going to meet in a straight line with that foot hole. So, tight chamber and then extending forwards and then using that back foot that we were talking about, that push from your toes to push into your hips, which transfers into your foot. So being aware of and working your chambers to suit the kick. It's not just a chamber for all the kicks. There are tiny differences in all of them that are going to aid how you deliver that kick. So, and it's different for everybody. This is the really cool thing. Yes, there are ways that you can apply to all kicks that all people would do, but then you need to alter it to suit you because you're different to everybody else. So that's important as well. I don't like to create carbon copies in my school of me. I like people to find the way that works for them based on principles that are sort of universal, but there's the finer detail within each person that you sort of need to find. That's one thing that I really like to do. I love it when somebody comes to a workshop and says, I can't do this kick. And I go, well, okay, give me 10 minutes and we'll do it. That's it. It's just building it up steps at a time, a little bit at a time.
I love it. Yes, sir. Now, how about hands? How about where are your hands, especially as it pertains to balance? I was just having this conversation last night at my dojang.
Yeah.
On kicks, and the student was struggling with balance, and we worked on his hand positioning, and it really helped things out. Yeah.
For me, with hand positioning, again, it depends on the kick and it depends on the individual. When I say it depends on the kick, it depends on how it's carrying you forward. Now, ideally, obviously, I would say, from argument's sake, and again, it's style dependent, you want your arms up. You want to be aware of where they are. Yes. A lot of times when people kick, and they forget about their arms, which has two effects. One, they have no defense. They have no means to carry on if their system allows them to punch, upper body as well. And the fact that their arms are sort of flailing around is impacting on their ability to control the kick because their arms are just flying around like, tree branches in a gale force wind. So, it's a tricky one, this one. I tend to utilize the upper body, depending on the kick. Say, for example, a reverse turning kick or a spin hook kick. Mm-hmm. When I teach this, I actually get the student to use their upper body to think about what they're doing with their elbows and how they're driving their shoulders. So they'll give them set positions to work when they're drilling it. Now, in reality, when they actually start applying it in sparring, they won't utilize it the same way. But the knock-on effect is it will make them keep their arms up and in. So there's not one answer for all the kicks. It is really kick dependent as to what you would do with your arms. But ultimately, they don't want to be getting in the way of either the technique, and they want to be there, ready to be used, whatever's following on or what potentially could follow on from there.
You bet. No, I think that's it. I think those two buckets are absolutely right. Body control to execute the technique, and then be aware for defense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now with your kicking, you started an online curriculum. How long have you been doing that? What drove you to do that?
I think it's been about a year and a half now. The really interesting thing with this one is, now this may ring true with some of your listeners now, I was actually completely against this sort of thing. Which might surprise people, but I was like, you can't learn online. You can't, no, that won't work. And basically what happened was, I had a friend who was already within this industry, and he'd been badgering me like crazy to do this for ages. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And I had no intention of doing it. Absolutely no intention of doing it. And I was at a charity. It was actually a funny story. I was at a charity event that was at the first school the second school that I taught at back to the start of the podcast when I was talking about when I was working for somebody else. Whilst I was there, they actually moved location in the second year. And this particular charity event was actually at that school, although somebody else owns it now. And I got in touch with them and I said, I see you doing a charity event to raise money for a local hospital. I actually used to teach in your studio when it was owned by somebody else. It'd be really nice to come back and teach on the mats again. And as it would happen, some of the mats were actually still the original same. It was the same flooring in places from when I was there. And I thought, wow, this is a unique opportunity. I can help a charity and I'll get to sort of visit, my old studio and train there. And, as it would happen, the new owner was actually a student of mine for a couple of weeks.
Wow.
Just before I left, back in 2001. And I didn't know because he was, I'm getting old now. So he was only a child at the time. I didn't join the dots at all. I didn't. So I was there, I was teaching this event and somebody said to me, one of the kids went, oh, well, I can't do that kick because I can't remember what the reason was. It was some standard lazy response thing. I said, no, well, I've not actually done this kick in 5 years. So if I have a go, will you have a go? And they were like, well, okay. And I said, I really am not supposed to do this anymore because of my knee and I don't do it. But watch, I'll do it and fall over. Then it doesn't matter. So I prepped myself. I thought, well, there's no way I'm going to land this. So I threw myself, jumped in the air, kick went over. It was a 540 sort of single leg landing tornado kick, old school thing. And I landed it. I was like, that wasn't meant to happen. But as I landed, I wasn't ready to, I wasn't prepped for it. I didn't think I would land it. And I actually gave myself nerve damage throughout in my leg, quite serious nerve damage in my leg. And I saw a specialist and he said, you don't realize how close you came to permanently damaging your leg.
Wow. And
at that point, something in my head, I thought, wow, I'm 39 years, well, I was 38 at the time, 38 years old. There's not really any record of any of this anywhere. I've not filmed anything properly. I need to get this down, now, so that if I do have an accident and, do end up in a position where I can't do this anymore, then it's recorded whilst I can still do it for the most part. So I spent 2 days, I sat down, planned it all out, filmed it all, edited it down, got it all online, and there it is now. So yeah, it's there forever. Well, unless the hosts go bankrupt, then it's gone. But let's hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I'm sure you have the originals.
I do somewhere. Yeah, somewhere.
You mentioned it wouldn't work. So what have been some of those challenges with remote learning?
Well, for me, it was my perception that it wouldn't work, which was wrong. As a backup, as a tool, to aid, students away. For example, I've had several people contact me I've had people contact me from around the world, which is really cool. But people have said, I regularly train in Taekwondo at my school, but I've been stationed in whichever country for 6 months and I have no one to train with. So I'm going through your drills and then I'm practicing them on the equipment we have here and pads and people, and so they're sort of using it as a means to give them focus and drive to train, almost like seeing the online course as a course. Okay, so I'm going to train this today, I'm going to train this tomorrow, I'm going to train this on Wednesday, and so on. And the good thing is they can access it from their mobile phones, from their tablet, from anything that connects to the internet that will play video, which is most things these days. Right. They can pick up and carry on, and then if they have any questions, they can contact me direct through the same system. And I can fire them a voicemail back or even a video. In some cases, I've done that as well. So it's sort of like distance learning, which in fairness, you can do for pretty much every other sector or every other industry in the world. You can distance learn, and with this, it's new. And I understand that there's some pushback because it doesn't really fit in with the traditional ethos of martial arts. And I understand that because that's where I was with it. But now seeing the benefits that people have had from it, it's hard to argue that it's a positive.
Absolutely, no. I think the traditionalist view certainly there are elements of anything where being in person is sort of a requirement.
Yes.
But that's for other reasons. I think that's for other reasons than the technical ones. And so when it comes to technical, I don't know why distance learning wouldn't work. You can provide sufficient information in this digital world. Why wouldn't we? And so I certainly think that I'm a proponent of it. I've subscribed to several things. I look at YouTube videos. I mean, the amount of information I've been able to get through my computer when it comes to just martial arts has been huge in the development of my own, my own training.
Absolutely.
But it has come as supplemental to my primary training at a dojo. Now, that said, one of the things you mentioned there, maybe I didn't think about are people who are in positions where they may not have access to a dojo. What about that child in the Midwest who is 45 minutes from a dojo, or people like you said who want to train, need some kind of guidance. I almost kind of think about like these at-home workouts, P90X and what have you. People who people have done that and sort of done, hey, here's kickboxing, but there's no reason why, especially you couldn't stream it right from your TV in your living room and follow curriculum.
Yeah,
so I
absolutely.
think it's great.
Absolutely. I mean, there are courses that do that. The idea with mine is it's more that you already have a background in a striking art of some sorts or experience.
Yeah, right.
And the way that I come at it, I come at this from two angles really. One, the two biggest or highest percentage that I have of people are students sort of a mid-grade. I'm not going to go into belts because obviously it's different from system to system, but sure, maybe sort of a green belt and above in Taekwondo, or instructors that are looking for new ways to teach existing content. They're the two. I get them more than anybody else that joins. Sort of mid-grade students looking to improve upon or work on more what they're already doing, supplement their training, or instructors looking for new ways to teach existing content. So I've sort of built it up with that in mind, coming at it from 2 points of view, and they go together remarkably well. So from the feedback, it's one of those things where you make it, you put it out there, and you just sort of sit back and wait and see what's going to happen. And the feedback's been good, so I'm just finding new ways to develop it, and it keeps me thinking as well.
Absolutely. Now let's kind of transition. So what I like to do, the heart of what I'm trying to accomplish in Taekwondaddy is bridging martial arts and then the social emotional learning piece of child development.
Sure.
Because I just one of the things that dawned on me. At some point, I got into martial arts because of my kid. Put my kid in, that drew me into it. Pretty common story. But one day I realized that we sum up the number of hours I spend working with my child and taking them to a dojo and kicking. And it's just if you sum it up, it's he does it more than like maybe sleep is like the most time during the day, and then school, and then it's martial arts. Like it's right there all of a sudden. And then when I correlate the number of hours one spends training versus the number of times he's going to need that in the real world, it's a huge amount of time for what's probably very little practical impact on his life. Now, that said, there's a whole other realm of going to martial arts that builds character, and those things are used every day. But we're not focused and being intentional with the character development piece. So that got me thinking, man. I really think if there's a way to sort of bolt on leadership principles and character development as a primary source of conversation, not a secondary one, then now that time invested has a direct, almost one-to-one relationship with how my student is going to be socially aware, intelligent, able to navigate conversations and people in the world even better than just if he sort of inherits it. Okay, so that's how the two merge together is my passion for Taekwondo and martial arts and my passion for being a father. So one of the things I read in your bio is that you always have an eye for detail, need to know the why and the how, and you spoke to that earlier. Now, play with that a little bit for me with how that came into clear focus for you in 2009 when you had your child and you stepped away from the martial arts pit, and now you're being a dad. So how does that eye for detail and that need to know why and how have you applied that and mapped that to being a better father?
I think, I, through the practice of fine tuning my technique, I learned very quickly to not be afraid of making mistakes, to try something. Okay, that didn't work. Why didn't it work? Okay, let's try this. That didn't work. Okay, why didn't that work? And I found that that is essentially what being a parent is to a certain degree. Nobody gives you a handbook of, hey, you're a dad. Congratulations, here's your book. It's like, oh, great, this is how I'm a dad. Fantastic. No, you don't get one of those. Your child is born, and then you're presented with a fresh challenge every day for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
And it's not to put. I'm not trying to suggest that it's not a negative, not a challenge in a negative sense, but it's
absolutely.
It's you're constantly having to. I found anyway, and still to this day, find answers to. I mean, they go through that magical age, don't they, where they're just questions. Every 30 seconds, there's a new question, and they manage to find questions that have never been asked before. Ever. Yeah. And you think, where did that come from? How did you think that in your little mind? Where did that? So, that eye for detail, I think, the necessity through having that is that I've had to be able to problem solve and to be, to not give up, to keep going. If there's something needs doing, you keep going until it's done. And whether that's, getting up to get the eldest one ready for school when you've had 1 hour sleep with the younger one, it all applies in different ways. So, I'm by no means the perfect dad. I don't think any of us are, but we're always sort of refining and working towards being a better version of ourselves, aren't we? So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well said. Now, with every, I think about that approach, the technical, and okay, that experiment didn't work, so now I'm iterating through how to get better. I think about that in a very positive way, but I've learned as well, all these positive strengths, means you're deficient somewhere else, because just like there's no perfect dad, there's no perfect person. We all have these, this, if we're good at this, it's because we're not good at this other thing. So where have you discovered that blessing of iterating and learning has been a curse? Where's that where does that make sense? Where does that hurt you?
Absolutely. I'm not the most social of people by a long stretch. I was actually having a chat with a friend of mine who I've not seen. Wow, it's been over a year since I've seen him. I can be very happy in my own company. And not notice that I've not spoken to a friend or a colleague in days, in weeks sometimes, because I become so immersed in what I'm doing,
right,
that I don't think, I've not spoken to so and so for a while. I really should make some time for that. It doesn't enter into my head at all. It's one thing that I'm consciously trying to work on. But that drive, that ambition, that sort of focus, it borders on self-centered sometimes if you're not careful. And, it's something that I am consciously having to work on all the time. It is to not isolate myself too much. Not out of choice, because I don't like to socialize. It's more that it doesn't enter into my head. I'll quite happily wake up at 7 a.m. Go through the day, and it can be 11 p.m. and I'm still working, and I'm not giving any thought to stopping. So yeah, that's one thing that I do. Think that I have to make more of an effort towards than everything else. So
is that, do you think there's some overlap there to why your podcasts, which we'll talk about here at the end, why you also bring on other, you move aside the realm. I mean, recently you did one on mental health.
Yes.
Is that, do you think that's there for you? Like a reason why you're interested in doing all these other things that sort of forces that collision?
To a point, maybe. It's an odd one because, as a full-time martial arts instructor, I'm, this is a strange one, but the parallels between being a full-time martial arts instructor, and being a martial arts-based actor for film, they are so similar, so similar, that I find often that I will give all my, I'll put out all of my energy for the day into my classes, and I've got to be the happy, smiley, go-to guy.
Yeah, right.
Regardless of what's just happened in my day. And we all have bad days, and sometimes the days are horrific, we all have those days. But when I step on the mats, what I've got to then remember is that those children may have horrible days every day. I might be the 1 hour that they get a break from whatever reality they're living in. Unfortunately, it's just the way of the world. So I can't afford to be in that negative place. So I have to put everything I've got into being that happy person. And it's draining being like that all the time. And when you don't feel that way. So I think, sometimes as a result, I kind of emotionally switch off to the outside world because I'm so focused on that. And the podcast helps. It's sort of a means to connect with the wider world and discuss these issues. Because let's be honest, as martial artists, sometimes we have this thing where we've got to be tough and strong, and we don't talk
Right.
we don't talk about feelings, do we? We're tough and strong. And I've seen the results of that, unfortunately, with colleagues. That you think, wow, they're the happiest person in the world, and the reality of it is they're not. They just got really good at looking like that. So. Yeah, it's for me anyway. I find it's a good way to connect with people and have that element of my life, perhaps, that I don't put enough time into, sort of condensed into a 1 hour time slot.
Right. Yeah. That's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
With that, one of the things you mentioned that I think about a lot is, we do have this responsibility when we're on the mat teaching to leave what's going on in our life there so that we can, in many ways, perform, for the sake of others. That's very fundamentally what it means to be human. And I think socially responsible to do that. But my experience is both in the way my parents were, they both worked full times, and oftentimes I felt like we as our family, our kids, with my mom in particular, we would take the brunt of that performance for the world. We just tend to hurt the ones we love, is a pretty cliche sentence. So how do you then balance and as a full-time instructor, how do you hedge, or protect sort of letting that overflow into, clearly you are a caring father. So I'm very interested in this answer because I want to continue to protect as I spend more time on the mat teaching students and caring and making sure that I do well. Then I don't want the frustration that's underneath, that's hiding there, that's exhausting, because now, just like you said, you're exhausted, to come home and then, like my kids take the brunt of that, albeit in the form of being quiet, not being up by me, or worse, lashing out at them or something like that. So are there things you have in place to sort of protect that?
I think I'm lucky in that I went from having next to no experience at all in the sort of working environment in martial arts practices anyway, to very suddenly doing it day to day, very, very quickly, very quickly at a young age. As I say, back then it was not necessarily that it was acceptable. It was more that it just happened, whereas now, thankfully, there are more policies and procedures in place to make sure that sort of thing doesn't happen so much. But I think because it became part of my life so young on a daily basis, that I've automatically sort of been able to when I switch off the lights and close the door, although the work does inevitably follow me home, I'm able to just say, for example, I had a call yesterday, just a little bit, 10 minutes later from now, actually. I was on the way out the door for the school run. I had a call from somebody asking about classes, and I said, "Oh, I'm really sorry. I'm just about to leave to pick up my children from school. I'll give you a call back in a couple of hours." Whereas I know some instructors or some school owners would carry on that conversation in the car.
Right.
But no, because this is, I'm going to pick up my children time, not discuss, booking in an introduction course time. So I'm able to make that, to not think, oh my goodness, if I hang up, they might not come back. The reality of it is that's not what they're going to think. They're going to go, oh, he's picking up his children. He'll speak to me later, and then my focus shifts back onto doing the school run, picking up the kids, not thinking about writing down their details and Jimmy, don't be quiet in the car. No,
right. I can relate to that.
So I'm able to, just switch these things on and off like literally like light switches now. I finished teaching. Now I'm in home mode.
So I mean, I love that. It's very symmetrical. Just like you flip off the personal to get on the mat, you flip off the mat to get back into the personal.
Yeah, it works both ways. And I, for some people that won't work, but it works for me. And I think that's why, it's funny because when I speak to people that, run full-time schools, and, I've been 16 years now since I opened my school full-time. And the vast majority of school owners that have schools of 16 years, probably less than 10 years, the majority of them don't still teach daily. Whereas I do. I'm still very, very hands-on in the classes. I have only just this year employed a staff member. And I think that's helped because, I'm responsible for teaching whilst I'm there. And it's been that way in my own school for 16 years, 6 days a week. I take 2 weeks at Christmas for holidays.
Wow.
So that's how I'm living day to day. So I'm able to break my days up into blocks, which is how I've been able to. A lot of people say, well, how do you have a film career and a podcast and an online course and teach 6 days a week? Well, I block everything down. This is teaching block. This is, for example, I'm 7 minutes away in my head from school block, from picking up my children. That's how I do it. I block everything. Now there's a little bit of crossover. Absolutely. Sure. You've got to be like when the workman turned up earlier when I was in podcast mode, you've got to be, but I found it does make it easier, just to be able to switch on and switch off. But
it's a great word. Well, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's a big takeaway for me. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Well, good. Well, we got 7 minutes for you move into pick up the kids mode. So let's close with a couple of things here. The first
I can give you a little bit more. I can give you a little bit more.
Okay. Well, let me back up then real quick and let me ask, because I did want to ask. There was more I was thinking about when you were talking about parenting, and so one of you're definitely these strengths you have, eye for detail. In this ability for you to sort of switch on, switch off. I love that you've opened up as well. And that's not going to be natural or easy for other people who aren't wired that way. Any different than certain kicks, certain technical pieces of kicks won't work for certain body styles. But the immutable point, the higher level, the framework is give your family attention when it's family time. That's the big principle. So do you have any thoughts? So it's natural for you. What about it being unnatural? If it's unnatural for somebody, they don't see that they're missing. They don't see that hey, I shouldn't take that phone call. How do you think they could learn that, or what could they do to put something in place? Because, let me transition real quick, back up a step. One of the things we talk about, me and some of my friends, is idea of guardrails. So we know over here, we know we want this thing, but we got to put this thing in place before we fall off that cliff, whatever it is. So that may or may not be a good analogy here, but people who don't know that they're doing something, they're not parenting their best. Let's kind of frame it that way. And they can't see that. They can't see that this is not the right way to do it. How would you, one, maybe help them see that? And then two, okay, they're not good at that. What could they do? I mean, it's
difficult.
There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on in that question. Yeah.
No, it's fine. It's difficult, really, because in situations like that, the person needs to know they need to be helped before you can help them.
Right. That's right.
And people don't want to hear. Nobody ever wants to hear when they're doing something wrong.
For sure.
So, who likes that?
But let's make the assumption. Let's just tackle the second then real quick. Let me interrupt. So let's assume a parent's like, no, I do want to be a better parent. Yeah. I don't see these things. Let's work with that person, because that's the same parallel of someone who's at the dojo and they want to get better at kicking, but they know they want to, but they're not. So they're not good at it. So how do we get that parent to, well, let's, and again, we're making this stuff up. Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, it's fine. I mean, for me, I like to, when I want to make change in something, I like to create fresh habits, and I create prompts for myself to remind myself. So, for example, I've decided recently that I'm going to start waking up earlier. So I now prompt myself when I'm putting the coffee on. It always comes back to coffee. When I'm prepping the coffee machine in the evening, I set my alarm at the same time. So I create a new habit, which creates a new result. Now, it will stop. Obviously, once it becomes automatic, coffee, alarm, wake up early. But the net result, what I actually wanted to have is more time with my wife before she left for work.
Right.
And it came back to, is the coffee machine, set the alarm, wake up earlier, have 5 more minutes with my wife before she leaves for work. And, I that's what I would suggest to people, is to not get too bogged down with the end result, what it is that you're looking to achieve, more what little changes can I make? Because we can achieve little changes, can't we? We can little steps. We can make little changes. If we go too big too soon, that's when it falls to pieces, because we take on too much. So I always like to look at everything like that, like make a little change.
And would you say that's a direct parallel to teaching someone how to kick really well?
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Right?
It's habit. We're creatures of habit.
Yes.
And I thrive off, that's how I work. Like I say, I wanted to spend. I was aware that my wife wasn't particularly happy that she was leaving just as she's a school teacher, so she's leaving at 7 a.m. I come in most evenings at sort of 10 p.m. So we have this sort of high five thing. She goes to bed, and then I can't go to sleep straight away because I'm still wired from training and teaching. I can't just switch off and go to sleep. So, we have this sort of odd relationship in that, it's functional. We make it work. But I thought, well, no, I can actually, it won't impact me hugely to wake up 10 minutes earlier.
Yeah. Right.
It really won't. So if I can remember to do that small thing every day, it'll make a big impact longer term in our relationship. So that's the first small change that I've made. And then the second thing is, at the other end of the day, is I'm starting to try and wind down the day 5 minutes earlier, so that I'm getting home a little bit earlier. So then we have a little bit more time to talk. So it's, it's small steps, small details. And I would say it would be the same with parenting and any sort of lifestyle decisions, lots of little changes to create a bigger overall change. So.
Right. Which is even also, again, symmetrically fits this idea for me, or fits symmetrically with how I think you think, which is kind of getting back to the basics, which would also explain why the lead leg sidekick is probably your favorite.
Yeah.
It's just the simple and basic.
I'm a very
I
simple.
love it.
I'm a very simple, very basic person. I'm not. I'm not very complex.
Good. I love it. I love it. God, it's great. Good stuff. Okay. Well, let me close with two kind of questions. One, well, let me first ask an obvious one. Are there any new movie projects you're working on we didn't know about? Be looking out for?
Yep.
Tell me about it.
I've just finished working on a film over here. The working title is Tribal. That may change, as is always the case with these.
Right.
But I'm obviously I'm bound by certain NDAs. I can't say a whole lot, but there is lots of very cool martial arts action in there, and yes, I'm not sure entirely how much I can say. The international trailer will be dropping soon. That much I do know. And there is a Facebook group for it, which is, I believe it's listed as Tribal, and then it's got the tagline "Get Out Alive," which gives you a little bit of an idea as to what's going on in there. But it's all over my social media because I've been working on it recently. Okay. So,
awesome.
Yeah, that was cool. You know, got to work with some really cool people on that one. International martial arts actress by the name of Zara Fithian, who many people know from her roles across the globe. She was recently in the Marvel, the Doctor Strange film. She played one of the, is it Zealots? Okay. I think it is. Zealots. Mm-hmm. I'm not really into that sort of stuff, so I don't know the names of the characters, but she was in that. And the director, a guy called Matt Rutledge, who's worked with a plethora of martial arts legends. It was nice to work with him as well. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one. Seeing what's what.
Yeah, you've never worked with Jean-Claude Van Damme?
I haven't. No, I've come close. And I've, we can't go into too much detail with that one, but I've got several friends that are, good friends with him, and so it's sort of in passing. It might happen. Who knows? You've just got to be ready, haven't you? I've always got to be ready.
So good. I was working on middle splits for a while, and I did one time between two chairs on my Instagram page, and I tagged JCVD. I didn't expect him to reply, and he didn't. But I thought, man, how cool would that be? Just because he's such an instrumental role in my life growing up, in the movies I saw, Bloodsport in particular.
Yeah.
So if you ever do, man, get him on your podcast, name drop me and see if I could.
Well, we'll see what we can do. So
it would be such an honor. Anyway, okay, so that was one. The other one is give me 3 words that exemplify your maybe teaching philosophy, or just 3 words that maybe you build your school up from. 3 words.
Persistence. This is a good one on the spot. Persistence is definitely one. Dedication, which maybe falls into the same lines with my school. Honesty.
Man, solid. That's it. 3 great words. No vowel though, so I can't make a cool acronym of that.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. There was an A in there like that or something. That's great. Okay, and then let's close with speak a little bit about other things you're working on.
Sure.
I in the intro I'll talk a little bit about, tell me about online kicking, how people can find your online curriculum, and,
sure.
And feel free to speak about the Kickback podcast.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. If people want to find out more about myself and sort of my work within the film industry and returning to that, now these are all UK based URLs. So we say .co.uk. I know you guys tend to say .co.uk. So however you want to say it, it's a C and an O, and then a dot and a U and a K. So there we go. So okay, I've got chrisjonesaction.co.uk. That's my personal website where sort of everything pertaining to sort of the movies and everything related to that performance industry, that's all there. And obviously people can hit me up on there, drop me emails. I'm very open with that sort of thing. I'm happy to answer any questions or bookings if people have got jobs. My podcast, kickbackpodcast.com is this one. It's actually a .com website, that one. So kickbackpodcast.com. And there you can actually send me audio recordings. So if there's any topics, anybody's discussion points, I always love to have the audience interaction. So if anybody has any ideas for things to discuss, they can send me a voicemail through SpeakPipe on there directly from the front page of the website. And my website for my online training is really easy to remember. onlinekicking.co.uk. Super easy to remember. Onlinekicking.co.uk. And then that takes you to the front page, which is the main course. And then from there, there's different ones. So the main course, I built it based around front kick, side kick, roundhouse kick or turning kick, and hook kick. And then all the iterations. So then it goes on to your spin back kick or your reverse turning kick, spin hook kick. And then the skips and jumps and knee up versions. So it's just those 4 kicks and then the branches from those 4 kicks. That's how the course sort of builds. So people can just stay on the basic 4, or they can go to a skip version or a step version or a spin version or a jump version or a jump spin version. And it sort of branches out from there. So you can sort of go in at any level that you want to go. Because for me, those 4 kicks are the key to building up a good kick ensemble, so to speak.
Absolutely.
So that's the main websites. I think I've said them all there. So
all right.
Keep me busy. So, and of course, Facebook.
Well, I can't
get me on social media.
Sure.
I'm all over social media. So drop me a message or anything like that. I'm absolutely fine with that sort of thing. So,
got it. Perfect.
Just make sure you get the right Chris Jones, because there's about 7 million of us. If there's a picture with a guy with his leg in the air, it's probably me. So
I think that's completely accurate. Good. All right. Well, I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I just want you to know I got a lot out of this personally.
Thank you.
And appreciate your time. Yeah, you bet. And good luck. And enjoy your afternoon and picking up your kids.
Brought to you by www.mittmaster.com.
So I hope you enjoyed that, guys. Slightly different interview to what I'd normally do, that one. Obviously touching a little bit more on the sort of family side of things. But I hope you enjoyed it. Something new for you to listen to there. Big thanks to Logan for sending me the audio file for his podcast so that we could include it in our Kickback Extra episode. As I said at the beginning of this one, the next one we're going to be doing is our Jean-Claude Van Damme special. I think everybody in the martial arts has seen at least one Jean-Claude Van Damme film, if not more, and I've invited everybody to send in their thoughts on his favourite films, favourite techniques, favourite moments from films, that sort of thing, and we've had loads of people send stuff in. I reached out to some people who I know have worked with him and are friends with him, and they very kindly sent some stuff in as well, so be a good fun one. I'm aiming to have that one out in the next week or so do keep an eye out for that. As always, please do remember to check out our sponsors. We've got Mittmaster.com, of which, if you actually go over to the Facebook group, I'm going to post some links there to some of his products, where if you go along and you buy any of his awesome courses, a kickback from that, no pun intended, will come straight back through to us and help us to keep the podcast going. So thanks to Matt for helping set us up as affiliate there as well. That's really, really appreciated. So I've got to buy loads of his courses because he's going to help me run my podcast. And it's really good stuff as well. On that subject as well, don't forget you can go and pick up some of the awesome t-shirts, hoodies and other goodies that the awesome guys at Art Martial put out. I'm actually wearing one of their hoodies now. Not that you can see it because it's a podcast, but it's really warm. It's getting cold now, October time. But no, if you go along to their website, Art Martial, or their Facebook group, and you use the code CJ19 at checkout, and I've checked it does work, you get 20% off. So, you know, some of the stuff you're saving over $5 on, so it's really worth doing. And they've got an awesome new range, a Bruce Lee inspired range that have just come out as well, and I actually want to get one of those t-shirts for me. So if you're listening, guys, you can send one over, that'd be cool. Or I could just go and use my own promo code, couldn't I? And yeah, maybe I'll do that. But yeah, go over to Art Martial Clothing and use the promo code CJ19 to save yourself a whole bunch on a load of cool stuff that those guys are doing. So thanks again for checking out this Kickback Extra episode. As I say, Jean-Claude Van Damme special coming next. Should be within the next week or so. And I'll catch you all very soon.